This is Open Mind Alexander Technique. I'm Jess. Today we're getting a bit conceptual and talking about what is the difference between technique and something that's frankly much more marketable, like describing work as hacks or life hacks or, one quick easy tip to make something work. And why is it that I very deliberately do not frame my work that way? So, just from the name Alexander Technique, that already implies a bit more involved than something like, here's just one easy tip that you can apply and it'll just fix everything. A lot of people actually don't refer to Alexander Technique simply as a technique. They might refer to it as the Alexander process or method. There's various different terms that people use to describe this stuff. The reason for that is it's not just a one simple thing. In my experience, both in my own life and with the many students that I've worked with, one simple tip might be great for one particular person, and you might have found one little nugget of information that works for you and is exactly what you need, which is wonderful. But that might not be applicable to so many different people. So my job as a teacher of this kind of work is to have a really huge toolbox of a lot of different tips, a lot of different suggestions. The way that I present that, to me, is really important. I don't want to contribute to that culture that is very, frankly, commercialized and very capitalism, and the idea of capitalism is a bit too broad for specifically what I'm talking about, but that's really where it comes from, is this idea that if something is marketable enough, then you'll make a bunch of money, and it can be one simple thing, and it's all about like consume, rather than this is actually stuff we can learn. What I really dislike about the increasing trend of these very snappy headlines or video titles that talk about one simple technique, one simple life hack that'll change your life, is it really cheapens and dismisses actually learning how to do stuff. Right? If you look at some of those things, all they're doing is teaching you here's one basic piece of information that you can actually use to learn how to do things. And it makes people really dismiss the entire concept of education as something that should be practical. I think that really comes a lot from the commercialization of education rather than saying this is a community thing. We learn this together. We should know these things. We should know how to do stuff. We should know how we work. We should know how the mechanisms that were involved around work. We should be able to do things like cook. We should be able to do things like garden. We should be able to do things like play a basic instrument. These are just human things. And the more that those aspects have been removed from general, and at least in the US, public education, the less people are going to know how to do things. I mean, how many of you wish that you had been taught how to do taxes rather than some kind of higher level, more niche academic stuff? I certainly do. That would have been helpful information. The point of making this video and wanting to talk about this with folks is to kind of differentiate, here's why I present things the way that I do. Here's why we can't just say that it's just one simple thing. So what I encourage you to think about this week is, what are the ways in which you are looking for simple, easy, quick solutions rather than learning takes time. And I'm going to commit to myself to set aside some effort and time, even if that's a small amount of time repeated, small increments, small incremental change. That's going to be a much better way to learn things. It's going to be a much better way to commit to yourself to be able to make changes and improve habits. So I hope this was a helpful little look into different, really, pedagogies. Pedagogy is the study of teaching, the art of teaching. How does teach? How do we learn? And I think it's a worthwhile topic to get curious about, and what are the ways in which we look for simple and easy and convenient and just sell me the one quick thing that I can do that'll fix everything, rather than I can learn things and I can take the time to learn them. Whether that's asking for less tension in my neck, being aware of what I'm doing with my jaw, asking my feet to connect with the floor, or something like setting myself up with my logistics, my surroundings, paying attention to my habits of communication with other people. So I encourage you to think about it. Where can you commit to putting some consistent effort into yourself and see what happens?